and welcome to my channel. Today I have a layout process video for you based on the load challenge, and the load challenge is the layout a day challenge, and that is hosted over on the Scrap Happy website. So go over to scraphappy.org to find out more info. We have a whole month of scrapping every day, and each day has a prompt, or actually two prompts. There's a story prompt and a technique prompt. And this month we are working around the theme of Harry Potter. Now, your layouts don't have to have anything to do with Harry Potter, but all of the prompts are inspired by Harry Potter. So today's prompt is inspired by Harry's invisibility cloak, and the story is to tell a story that you observed without being noticed, and the technique was to use some clear elements. So I wanted to tell the story of my daughter's love of Instagram, and I've made a little section of this private because I took a screenshot of her Instagram. And this big photo here is the moment I caught where I was watching her and her friend take photos for posting to Instagram, and they didn't know I was taking these. And so I thought it was an interesting kind of juxtaposition of the beauty of the Instagram photos with the reality of the rusty container in the background. So I wanted to tell that story about how I want people to be careful about when you're online. You see just a small portion of somebody's real life, and real life can be a little bit messy and a little bit rusty. So here I am trying to find a paper that I think would support this story, and I go with that background with kind of a theater aspect to it, and I was going for kind of that superstar feeling, which Instagram can lead to. And then I turned to working on a technique, and I'm going to use that prompt of use a clear element to set up this little piece of acetate that it's hard to see on screen, but I'm going to punch this into a frame shape, and I'm using this We Are Memory Keepers frame template punch. And I'm going to use that to create more of a kind of a cell phone shape, and then I'm going to heat emboss stamping on that acetate piece to set it up to look more like a cell phone. And then I'm going to use that. Let's see, here's a little bit of a close-up of how this frame starts coming together. You punch the corners, and then this extra piece over here helps slice out that center portion so that you're just left with the frame behind. So then I'm going to use this piece to highlight my daughter in that enlarged photo to kind of draw the attention to her without ignoring what else is going on in that photo, because what's happening in the background of that photo is important to my story. It tells the story of the real life that you don't see behind those beautiful Instagram posts. In order to do my stamping on this frame, I had to get some things prepared. First off, I'm using this word punch from Sculpey. It's actually intended for clay, and I have had this for quite a while, so I don't know if it's available, but it's just you dial in a word and you can spell out whatever you want. Now the word, I was going to spell the word Instagram, and it turned out to be a little bit longer than what I could fit letter-wise on here, so you'll see me, I have to spell out Instagram, and then I go back and add the M later. And I'm giving myself a little jig and a little template, so I just stamp on a background paper with black, and then I will line up my my acetate piece over the top of that and move on to stamping with, I'm using a white pigment ink and some embossing powder to set that, because I didn't have a white StazOn pad, which I thought I had in my stash, so I'm using this other alternative technique to set ink onto the acetate, which would normally just rub off. Now, crafting doesn't come without its challenges, and I was having a hard time with this ink on this acetate because it was super slippery, and I'd get it almost right and then it would slip, and I'd have to wipe it off. Luckily, you can just wipe it off, and I'd have to try again. So after many frustrating attempts, I discovered that if I use my static powder tool, it helped kind of de-slick the surface a little bit so that it gave me a little more control over that ink. And then if I went very slowly and rocked the stamp very carefully, I would get full complete coverage. And then I put that embossing powder on there and heat set it so that it would be done right away and wouldn't have any more chances to smudge. And when I got it back, it was good, and the embossing powder held that on there and it worked. Yay! I wanted to add a little more detail to this project, and so I have these little emoji stamps, and I believe that was an old Studio Calico product. And so I tested them out, and what I discovered is that you had to make sure that they were right side up before giving them a stamp. So I do the same process here, and it goes a little more smoothly, but I will be honest that it was not entirely easy to get all this done. But it's the same process as I did with the words, and I just got that heat set on there. And then I'm moving on to go ahead and building my layout. And I just wanted to show you the paper I chose was from Reminisce, and it's called Musicality in case you like this paper and want to look for it. I couldn't actually find a lot of papers that had to do with theater because both my girls do theater. So I was really happy when I found this line. And I'm going to use these tiny black letters in combination with um, these these large clear letters to mix and match and build a larger title across the span of this layout, and we'll get to that. So I'm starting to build up the layout, and of course that big photo is very big and it's just going to take up most of the space of this layout, but I'm going to leave that curtain element up there to stand out quite a bit because that kind of sets the stage, so to speak, for this whole story. And I start sticking these down, and I realize that I need to back up a step here because I want to make sure that I have room for my title before I start adhering things down permanently. So I pull out my letters and I start working, and I will skip through this so that you're not bored with seeing me sort through all those letters. So I pulled out all the letters from this pack that I needed. It was a brand new pack, so there were plenty of letters in there except for S's. So I am going to take this number 8 and I'm going to line it up with this S, and I'm just going to clip off the excess to turn this 8 into an S so that I have plenty of letters to finish my title, and it goes pretty smoothly. You'll see me clip it here, and then I'll come back in a little bit and kind of clean it up just a bit more. In order to get these letters adhered down, I need to use a nice liquid glue because they are kind of a clear plastic product. And up there I've got a stapler sitting on top of my package of tiny alphabet letters. And what I'm doing with that is giving some pressure to the word that I've already glued down up there to help that glue set while I work on this lower section. And then I will move my stapler and package over and let this side set and dry before I move on. And then I'm gonna use these Glue Dots adhesive sheets for vellum, and it also works on this clear acetate piece that I'm working on. And so the dots come on this its own acetate sheet there, which I'm gonna set off to the side. And you just kind of touch your item to that sheet and it'll pick up a little bit of glue, and it really is pretty see-through, so you're not going to notice weird adhesive behind your clear elements or your vellum elements. So I add that frame around the center of my daughter like I said I was going to, and I'll hold this up. It's hard to tell on camera, but it does add a very subtle element to this page. And I'm going to help use that to build in the rest of my title, and it'll bring more focus to that too. So here it says behind the scenes of an Instagram photo shoot. And so I use all of those elements to build the story and build the title across the entirety of the page. And then I'm going to finish up my layout with my journaling, and I'm going to actually use vellum here. And I punched the edge of this, I think that's a Fiskars punch, and I added the same shape as part of my title there has that same kind of bracket shape to it. And I use my scoring tool on my cutter to size up my vellum to be not too big to intrude on the photo too much, but big enough to give me room for my journaling. And that will make a nice edge so that when I'm writing my journaling, I don't go too far over on the vellum. And I'm back and I've got my journaling done. I just added a little adhesive to the back side of this vellum, and I'm just gonna fold it around and adhere it to that. And when I put it in my page protector, that'll help just hold all of the vellum down, so I'm not worried about gluing on the front. So here is the final layout. I will leave you with a few close-ups of this project. If you're interested in load, I know we're almost done with February, but our next load will be in May, and you can go over to scraphappy.org to check on that and learn more. If you enjoyed this video, please like, subscribe, and get notifications for my future videos.